Don't be silly. Just put the headphones on.
Oh, hey guys, thank you for joining us every single time she makes us live without telling us. Today, we're doing something special, and I know that we've all probably, in fact, we definitely have all been following the Trump train and the Biden shit show, as I like to call it. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the world at the moment, and I know that it's kind of gone a little bit quiet at the moment, and things are a little bit, what's the word? We've all kind of
stale.
We've all kind of gone into a bit of a stale, kind of like looking around going, what is happening? So we have an awesome guest by the name of Gary Dobbs. We've never actually met, and we know each other through sharing commonalities like Trump interest, politics, and everything else. So thank you for joining us all the way from California today, Gary. Thank you for being here.
Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yes, I do live in California, and yes, I am a big Trump supporter.
Yeah.
those two things don't go together for very many people.
No, do you know? Can I just on that? Just very quickly, Corey's here as well. So Corey, we think the same way. Actually, yeah. Corey's my husband as well. So we have very long and lengthy conversations about that. How hard is it? I know what it's like over here in Australia. So when I say out loud, I'm a Trump supporter, I actually really like what he stands for, and more than anything else, like his politics as well, and actually the things that he's actually achieved, as opposed to what color his fake tan is or his hair color is this week. Yeah. So what's it like for you in America to actually turn around and say, what's the vibe like over there when you say you're a Trump supporter? What happens?
Oh, well, you know, I actually was having dinner with a niece and my sister the other night, and we were talking differences on it because they don't understand my point of view. Because a lot of people just pay attention to what's in the media, and then they let those stories tell their story. And so I know I'm busy, and before I used to never really plug in and listen to politics and stuff. But I look up my own perspective. I try to find out my own information about it. And like for me, when I hear those stories, it just comes down for me as a man. Like Biden's not a man, Biden's a pussy. Biden's not, he's not his own man. So you can't. Like Trump, I think I love about him is he's not bought and paid for, and you can't tell him what to do. And so from those perspective, he's a great leader. Now, all the other things that happen, you know, like I think to me, it's just topical. I don't really judge a person by their character, by all the other topical conversations, because I wasn't there. I didn't really know the context. So I won't judge a person by those stories that we hear, right? The topical stuff that really get people fired up.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like over there, but I mean, we're watching, and we all, the whole world is watching. The whole world, you can't not watch, whether you support or whether you don't. It's kind of like hard to look away. But you know, one of the key things that I think you just said, which it's really, really important, and I find very interesting, especially when it comes to Trump and Biden, it's very rare that I have met anyone that supports Biden that has actually looked in and researched. And the minute that you say to somebody, "Hey, have you done your own research in this space?" when it comes to actually researching Trump, the answer is always no. They just don't want to do it. They loathe him, and the mainstream media have done such a great job at perpetuating this. What's like
the demonizing?
The demonizing of
You've got your late shows and your Jimmy Kimmels and all those guys. They do a great job to demonize them and make them look like a racist, heretic, and stuff like that. Where it's the exact opposite. So when Trump first came into power, like I was totally on that train. I was like, this guy's a racist, misogynist, like all that kind of stuff. I was totally against him because, you know, to be honest, I rode the train of Barack Obama. Like I was just like thrilled that America had their first black president. And then the more digging and research I did, I found it was the exact opposite. And the more that, I'll tell you now, my wife was right from the start. She was on the Trump train straight away. And I was like, fighting against her, and I was just like, and then like I did my own research. I really dived into it and had a look, and like one things that really impresses me, he's really articulate, he's really smart as well. He's a clever man, and he's got a great heart. Like you hear his interviews like from, you know, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, he's got a great heart and he loves America. And he wants to see his people succeed, and that struck to me like you said, like a good leader. He's really strong. He doesn't mind saying it how it is. And honestly, I truly believe he's definitely not a racist at all.
No.
Not even a little bit.
Biden is.
Yeah, Biden's definitely a racist.
Yeah,
And this
totally.
is the dumb thing, Gary. Like, I mean, we only get what we get over here. And at the moment, we're actually, I think is there still drama with Google over here threatening to kind of cut us off and cut off the search? I think we're still arguing with that. There's some stuff going on in Google, in particular in Australia. But are you getting the same information we're getting? Like, you must see all of the times where he's used the N-word and he's referred to, like, and he really has been seriously racist, caught on camera. You can't deny it. And then yet it's not, you show someone or tell someone and it's either they don't want to believe it or they just don't care.
Yeah, because it's like where I've seen it is where clips from better reporters, better journalists that follow those stories and then tell the whole context of the stories. So like there are some videos I had seen those where these guys from Ben Shapiro's media were going around New York and then they were saying those comments and then they were saying, who do you think it was? And everyone was shocked to find out that it was not Trump that said all these racist things. It was Biden. And
how crazy is it?
Them. Huh?
How crazy is it too when they find out it's Biden? Some of them are like, they still think that Biden's the better choice over Trump because they still think Trump's a racist.
I think a big part of it is a lot of people are scared to be the black sheep or to be the one that all the sharks are looking at in the red ocean. So like what I've heard from a lot of people that are very cultural or from different backgrounds, they have a hard time going against the narrative with their family or their community or their group. So they'll what I've now, like, so that was a good example. And to me, I just call it like the lie of the left, right? They lie, they deny, and then they blame other people. And Obama did that to President Trump in the only debate that they had. And so obviously it was very convenient that Biden wasn't available to complete the debates with Trump. There should have been 3 of them. And so that part where people just saying their COVID's an excuse and everything else, it's just more of the BS, more of the magic flu, because it's very convenient that the magic flu bug came around at this time that it did.
Yeah, that magic flu.
We've got a question from Millie saying, can you please share your views in Trump's approach to the Central Park 5?
I don't really know that story too much. I've heard about it in the news from decades ago. I'm not really familiar with that story. If you can provide some context, I'm just curious what that story is.
Yeah, actually, I'm on the same page as you, Gary, and I think right now what everybody's doing is getting their phones out and having a look, just to kind of, because I actually don't know, I'm not aware of it, but yeah, same thing, Millie. If you can share some context, that'd be really helpful. Look, I mean, I just want to go back to what you were saying, Gary, about like, being able to kind of like go against the grain, and I think that's societal, and I think Trump is one of those kind of like anomalies where he is that person. He's the guy that is almost like an underdog, but not really an underdog. Especially in politics, he's the odd one out, right? And I think when you look at all of how society is set up in our schools, in absolutely everything, anyone that is brave enough to stand up on their own and stand against the crowd and kind of go where the masses aren't going are vilified. So it makes perfect sense that people would be they would be afraid. They would be afraid to say, hey, I'm a Trump supporter because of the what's the word? I struggle with these ones, but like just from the kickback, not the kickback, the
backlash that you get.
Backlash,
yeah, from other people.
Flashback. So, like, do you like in that? What's it like? Have you got kids, Gary?
Yeah, I do have a daughter.
Yeah, and how old is she?
She's 8.
8. So even at that age, though, are they talking about it in schools over there? Because our kids are.
I don't know, because to put the story there, I'm not to put it in context with my daughter. I don't get to see her much. I was married, and so my ex-wife made it sure that I couldn't see my daughter. So I put it in context with that in the background. Yeah, it's okay. Like I don't hate her for it and stuff, but but with kids and stuff, there's so many different things that also too, like people are taught the wrong facts, like the Green New Deal, or all these things like Greta Thunberg was trying to get mad and blame all these people for. But you can't generalize things like that, because at the end of the day, there is no Green New Deal without fossil fuels. It's just never going to happen because it's all reliant on fossil fuels. So the Green New Deal thing is a big sham too. There's just no possible way for them to carry out these things, and people get mad, but it's just not feasibly possible.
You can go, Corey, if you want. If you've got a
No, I just wanted to ask you a question. What's the feel like? And I know Haley's asked you this question already, but particularly in California itself, like, you know, Ben Shapiro was saying it that he's leaving California, he's moving closer. I think is it to Texas or something? Joe Rogan's moved to Texas. There's all these people that are just flooding out of these blue states and going down south. Is there more tension now in California? Is it still the same? Is there more rejoice because Biden's in, because, you know, their guy's in, or is it still the same? What's going on?
I don't know. Like, I play around with it. Like, so tonight when I went to go get dinner, you know, like I walk in without a mask. You know, I call it, I'm not wearing my face panties today. I don't need any face panties.
I love it.
And I walk in there to get something, and it's just funny to just see how people look at you and things like that. And then I go, oh, okay. Because sometimes I walk in a store, and I was in CVS one day, and this woman, right out the gate, she goes, "Sir, do you have a mask?" I go, "Yes." And I go, "Ma'am, do you have a positive attitude?" Like right back. And then I just grabbed it out of my pocket, right? And then went over to pick up something. And so I always do things like that because it is really, it's like, what are you guys going to believe, right? And it's just funny to see how people react, because when you're walking around, because you get to find just really how in control of their own emotions people are. And that's what I've been seeing with it. Because I was also having this discussion with family about the virus vaccine. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to inject a foreign object into my body. I don't know what it is. And some of these people are saying, but it's so cool. They got like this vaccine where they can, you know, change your DNA. I'm like, what? Do you realize what you're saying? Like,
that's
technology.
How is that cool?
Yeah. I'm not a hardware. I'm not like a software where you want to download or something like with me. So there's a lot of those things that I'd like to know more about. Because our foods too can biologically change us too, and I've been ignorant to that, like with meats and the problems. So I got to educate myself with the healthy alternatives, like eating more vegetables. You know, like that thing that they say as a kid is actually pretty truthful.
It's funny that,
That's a really good description, because, you know, when you say things like, you know, we're not software, and it depends on which rabbit hole you go down and what you believe, how programmable we actually are is becoming more and more evident. We are so easy. We're so easily programmed, so easily controlled. So it would make perfect sense to me that if that was a thing, you know, like in changing that DNA, and I think they first have to actually change our thought patterns and our belief sets in order to be able to get us to accept that we can actually put something inside of us to further to grow that programming kind of vibe that they've got going on.
We've got a question here from a Facebook user saying, have you seen the voter fraud in the Biden-Trump election? As a friend in Texas had his name used 3 times. How far are people going to be pushed till a civil war breaks out again?
I've seen a lot. I've heard a lot about the voter frauds that have gone around. It's hard to find like all the evidence, because like when Trump, shortly after the election, you know, he had to follow due process and things like that. And I was taking this opportunity to actually just to get to know my political system better and to know the voter system better, know the election process better too. So I had seen and heard a lot of that. And I have sources that I go and look at, and it's pretty evident to me. And then there's others that almost seem conspiracy-like too, that there's been voter fraud, because that's why back in September 2018, Trump was expecting it. And he signed an executive order even further enforcing the issues of foreign interference with our election. And that's what a lot of people haven't accepted. They don't believe that there's been foreign, interference with our election. And that's high treason. Can't do that.
Do you know through the entire thing, like they've been pushing OAN and Newsmax as a more reliable United States news source. And recently I just saw, I think it was last night at about 3:00 in the morning, that is it Gil that's kind of had a falling out or something because a reporter walked out on an interview or something like that. And basically because Newsmax have pushed back and said that we absolutely believe that we have seen, and there is no basis of evidence for voter fraud. Yet time and time again, I mean, I know what I've seen with my own eyes, and time again, we're hearing thousands and thousands of stories of people saying my name was used 3 times, or, you know, we have video footage, but it just isn't making it out into the
Well, the thousands of
the news.
affidavits too, you know, people coming out saying that what they've seen and what they've done during the elections, and how, you know, Republican officials weren't allowed to be near the voting booths to actually to view the whole process.
What I find incredible, like why not have it heard?
Yeah.
You know, even if there's a suspicion, right? Like you're bringing all these cases, it's just absolutely mind blowing. Gary, do you know anything about? I mean, is there anything that we don't know about Trump over there that we're not getting over here? Because he seems to be kind of like off the radar at the moment. So
yeah, the thing that I found with my sources, it's hard to verify these things because I don't have all the time, but I have trusted sources that I do understand and verify it. So, for example, there was an off-the-record video I'd seen, and it was probably about 2 weeks ago now, maybe going on 3 weeks ago, this coming Saturday, and the White House went black. That whole area went blacked out for a couple hours. So, and it's on video, it's recorded. And so they're saying a lot of these things is basically where the USA Inc. has been absolved, because there is a paper trail, like trillions of dollars have been stolen from our country and extorted in certain ways, like over 19 trillion. And that's a fact. $19 trillion. There could be more because of our Department of Defense and other, Fed level organizations have no tracking of their accounting. So that's why people don't pay attention that Trump was the one that actually cut off the wars and cut off that bleeding of our money, whereas Obama and others increased it, but then they blame Trump. But then there's proof in the pudding that Obama and Biden and then prior presidents were allowing that kind of those things happen. And that's why they keep wars, because they're very expensive.
Well, there's talks of Biden talking about mobilizing troops to go over to the east again, to Iraq and all that. Have you heard that over there? Is that true?
That you know of?
Yeah, that you know of. It's something I read. I think it was on Ben Shapiro. He said something about Biden turning back on the war machine.
Oh, right. Yeah, because I hadn't heard about that, but I would believe it from the things that I'd seen, because I've even seen reports. I'd love to see more evidence, but they're saying that, the CCP has paid Biden's billions. Yeah. And I'm like, what? They're like, no, yeah, like literally. Like, so, and there's documented evidence of a guy back in like 1951 or 1953, and it's the CCP talking about how they're going to take down America, take down the United States. So these types of things and silent wars have been going on for decades. And, it's all there. All the evidence is out.
Well, what's the best way to defeat an army? It's to divide and conquer.
Trojan horse.
Yeah. So
from the inside as well.
From the inside. So you divide the people, and then it's easier to pick apart. And now that they've got their figurehead there, it's, the wolves on the outside can come and attack. So, guys like China and Russia and stuff like that, they've got more of an option and ability to do that now.
Can I ask, Gary, Biden, do you have friends and family that are Biden supporters, and since Biden getting in, have flipped and turned around and said, you know what, I think I made the wrong decision?
Oh, let's see. No, not the ones that I know of. None of them have said, oh my gosh, wait a minute. What, like nobody have said that to me yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
I find that
maybe
really
they're thinking it. Maybe they're thinking it. I just don't see how anybody could have voted for him. Even if you don't like Trump, why would you vote an incompetent person that should just be out to the pasture, spending time with his family? And then, just why would you vote people unprepared for a hard, high demanding position? I just don't see how anybody could disagree with a person like Trump. And you look
We've got a question for you, Haley.
Yep.
A user from TikTok has said, do we Americans look like we don't know what's going on from your eyes as an outsider?
No, I feel like, do you know what I feel? I feel like there's nothing worse. And because I do spend a lot of time on TikTok, and I've actually got a really great following on TikTok, and they kind of and I get it, because, sometimes the old saying, you can't see the forest for the trees. So I feel like I can see things, and this is true. Like, what you guys see in America isn't what we get shown here, and there are bits and pieces that we don't get. And of course, I know people in America, I know people in bloody the UK, all over the world. So I don't think it looks like you guys don't know what you're doing, or I just think it looks like you're a country with people in pain, and you're actually it's like watching a really awful, narcissistic family domestic violence situation going on, and knowing that the perpetrator is winning. And it's really painful for me to watch. Like, I'm watching with my eyes wide open, and it really frustrates the shit out of me when people say things like, oh, it's not true. And I'm like, don't tell me what I have seen with my own eyes. Like, I know what I've seen, I know what I've read. I've been researching the shit out of this since it all broke down, almost like over a year. I've always followed Trump anyway. I think he is incredible, whether you like him or whether you don't. But it's not a popular, and this is the bullshit thing about politics, in my view, is that it should never be a popularity contest. It should be based on, not whether you're black or white, or you're a woman, it makes no difference. What is your ability? What are your policies? Make it your business to know. And I actually really think that there needs to be a movement in making sure that politics is easy to digest. So somebody somewhere needs to develop some sort of a system where it's easy to go and actually look at the policies of these people and actually look at them side by side. And not just those people, but the people from previous administrations that actually go for the same parties. Because I think what's happening right now is an unfolding and actually the disassembling of two parties and moving into the possibility of opening up for more progressive with it parties in the future.
So I disagree. I think America has stuffed it up a little bit. You've got a majority of the country, following, people from The View and watching these fucking crappy programs where they're just spilling out all this rhetoric that's just stupid. It's causing more divide than what it's worth. And then you got people like Gary, true Americans, people that love the country. They don't care what skin color you are or what you're doing. You're American bred and born. Like, it's not about that. It's about having the freedoms that you guys have been used to for a long time. And it's about not taking away these things that, you've been accustomed to, and being proud of your culture, whether you're black or white. Most of the time, you're all surrounding the same culture anyway. Once you come to America, it's like being in Australia or anywhere else. It doesn't matter what color or creed you are. But I think at the end of the day, we do need to break down that two-party system. Like Haley was saying, it's damaging to the country because...
And it all comes down to, do you know why I respected Trump? It was because, again, Gary, you said it earlier on in the piece that he can't be bought and paid for. And that's when and that's why they needed him out. Because up until now, it's been who's got the most money, who can raise the most money for their campaigns. And I think that once you remove that element completely, we're going to see a really a different type of politics.
Yeah, and I think they they also have to change too, because how fast things have been escalated, right, with globalization and then big tech. And so it's almost like there's been now like, oh, wait a minute, because liberal media, let's say media, so I won't sound so biased, but let's just say the media has been used like a machine to program people and tell people a story. And now you have big tech that have really added to that stack and added to the other stacks of how these, global leaders, country leaders, and really think about, trying to play politics with people and confuse them, and overwhelm them over stuff. Because for me, the way when the lockdown happened, and then this, and it being so convenient at the time, I just see that it's gone to show how many of these elected leaders truly do not care about the citizens that they're supposed to be there to elect and to protect. They just don't care.
Well, we all make the call.
Things that they're doing is crazy, huh?
That correct. And Gary, I think most of us, all of us, conspiracy tinfoil hat wearing people, we all made the call that, literally, you watch what happens. Biden will get in, and then, the C word will eventually go away. I try to refrain from saying it because the AI bots basically pick it up and then the censorship begins. So, you know, it's obvious. It was, and it's happening now. Like all of a sudden the borders are opening, and it was kind of like right actually in the lead up to the 20th of January, we had a 3-day lockdown in Brisbane, and it was kind of like all of a sudden, you know, but there's also talk in Australia where people are saying, look, they're going to be pushing for mandatory vaccines. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah.
But then at the moment, you know,
is it mandatory over there to wear masks everywhere you go, Gary?
Yeah. So like I'm in California, and I didn't pay attention to the details of Governor Newsom's last lockdown roll again, but more and more people were just disobeying it because they're like, this is ridiculous. This guy's going to put me in the poorhouse. I'm going to lose everything. So a lot of businesses have stayed open in defiance of it. And so there was a recall for him petition going around last year. I signed it right away when I heard about it. And then I think recently a guy named Chamath Palihapitiya announced he was going to run for governor. So if they get enough petitions to recall him, then there'll be a recall. And I think that would happen in March. You know, but for me, like, I like Chamath Palihapitiya. I don't know what his positions are in things, but I've heard how he speaks, and how he looks at things. I don't know if he has an underlying agenda that he's very good at articulating and covering up. But the thing I like of what he says is, to me, I just want people with a diversity of ideas, right? Because everything else is just sort of a story that we keep telling ourselves. And then when I'm in rooms or on social chats, like I'm on Clubhouse a lot, and I learned that when you're on these audio chat rooms with a lot of people in there, it's emotional intelligence is at play, and people have to learn to be able to think with a clear head, not get triggered. And social media has been triggering people for a long time. It's testing people to really get to grow up.
Yeah, and you know what? Like I think keyword there as well is emotional intelligence and the lack of it. It's, you know, I think what's happened recently, it really has highlighted the fact that you know, regular people, even my friends, we've lost friends over it. So people that you just go regular, like intelligent, like educated people, like just lack serious amounts of emotional intelligence. And you just kind of go, how did that even happen? What blows my mind is that people can't articulate why they hate Trump other than he's a racist.
Yeah.
Or because they just get so nasty. Like he's just nasty.
Or a misogynist.
It's so nasty.
Yeah.
And I'll say to them, okay, so what about his presidency? And I'll ask for details. They just can't give it to you. It blows my mind.
Well,
my favorite one for people.
What's that?
Oh, no, you go.
One, I was going to say the funny stories is like when the toxic masculinity, like when the women use these key phrases and they keep talking about that. I'm like, well, but if you were living in Texas and everybody was flooded, and there was a kid, you know, standing on a roof, most likely you're looking for that toxic masculinity to go over there and save those poor people, right? You're not looking for anybody else. So there is really, to me, there is no such thing as toxic masculinity. It's just men being men. You know, do you want them to not be men? Like, you know, you can't. To me, those funny terms that come up. It's like women, you know, those types. I wouldn't expect a woman to think like a man. And I sure as hell wouldn't want a man to, you know, be acting like women and stuff like that. So I think there's importance to the difference. Yeah.
We don't want that. I actually don't want them to. I've got 3 children. We've had 3 children, men and women, boys and girls, and I'm fine with it. I think the silly thing is we just want people to have empathy for each other. You don't have to think like a man. You just have to like be interested and actually care and be kind and caring and accepting and listen to people. It's not, I just don't know. I think the world's gone a little bit freaking crazy, to be fair.
Yeah, well, we're trying to be neutral really quickly, you know. We want to try to understand people, and I get it, but like you're saying, like men have to be masculine, you know what I mean? Women have to be feminine. That's okay. That's okay. It's okay to say that, you know what I mean? You're going to have people that disagree with me and say, well, men can be feminine and women can be masculine. Yeah, I get that. But majority of the time, men are men, women are women. And the percentage wise, there's a massive percentage of men that are just men and women that are just women. And then you got these small pockets of micro groups that are like in between and then want to chuck in all these other genders in there as well. So
and that's okay too.
But of course.
But it definitely shouldn't affect my ability.
It shouldn't override the traditions of man and woman.
100%. I'm not there arguing with these people saying, I'm sorry, but you can't say who you want to be.
No.
And I don't want them to argue with me about it either.
My favorite thing, I was just getting back we were just talking about how we've lost friends because we're Trump supporters. My favorite one is I had a female friend. She told me, she goes, how can you be a Trump supporter and be brown? And I was,
oh,
I am.
Yeah.
What? Why is that even a thing? He's
know.
a racist. I said, how is he racist?
Last
said all
time
Mexicans are racist. No, he didn't.
Yeah, last time I checked, anyone could have the same shared experience. So the story of the far left here in the States is, like a black person and a white person can have very similar experiences growing up, and they could live with very similar upbringing by parents, and they can live with the very similar limiting beliefs. So they can almost have completely identical experiences throughout life. And so it's not that really get in the line. I understand the difference of how different challenges people have, but I don't know. I think it's just not every person is the same because of the color of their skin. But I think when I hear that with people, it's just the story that they tell themselves. Sort of, that's how they see things. So.
Yeah, and I think that, like, on the at the risk of going and using the word white privilege and triggering 70 million people out in social media right now.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The way I challenge this thought about it, right? And I think of a more grown way to look at it, and I think, okay, there is no racism. Now, there's culture. So let's talk about culture. And then when I have those conversations with people from different backgrounds, they look at me like, what? Like, oh my gosh, here we go, another white privilege. Yeah. But it's not like I'm saying that stuff exists, but I try to challenge them like, is there really? Because what you see, you might call it racist, but that's not the meaning from the other person. You can't take your own experiences and project it onto that person and say that's what they meant. If the person doing the projecting has that issues, that's their own problems, not the others.
Yeah, and that, like, one of the biggest things I think for, like, white privilege, I was speaking to somebody the other day, and, like, one guy was like, yeah, I really loved my white privilege, living in a shithole shed in bloody Campbelltown, growing up with my alcoholic, drug-addicted mother and being beat up every day and not having any food. Yeah, white privilege. And so the danger of, trivializing somebody else's experience because of the color of their skin is the very thing that these people are trying to, well, it feels like that's what they're trying to get their message across, and it's damaging both ways. So if we just don't say it and we don't continue this divisive bullshit about going white privilege, black lives, all this crap, and just exactly what you say, recognize culture as opposed to race.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
Because there's cultural things in like, we've all been enslaved at some point in time, all of us, no matter what color our skin is, and we've all gone through crazy shit. So we've got to wrap this up, Gary, but you are amazing. I really appreciate your input. I think we should do this again. I'd like to do like a part 2 maybe if you're up for it.
Yeah, I am. And I wanted to invite you guys. I have an event this Saturday. Do you have an iPhone? Are you on Clubhouse?
100% I am, and I'm definitely coming. Who have you got? You've got Grant Cardone, don't you, on your show?
He will be there. So I've gotten his real interest, and I haven't gotten the hard commitment yet. But I've got Manny Fernandez is there, Alex Stern, who founded Constant Contact Software. I'm sure pretty much everybody had used it. He's coming to speak. And then I also have Naveen Jain, guy that founder of Moonshots. I've got a long list of people coming. It's starting at probably 7 a.m. on Saturday. But I'll do probably a welcome party at 8 a.m. and then it'll go through. The last speaker will be at 5 p.m. Pac time, Pacific time.
Is that your time, American time or Australian time?
Oh,
it'll be his time.
Sorry, for some reason my mic went down. What'd you say?
That's okay. So 7 a.m. your time, American time or Australian time?
Pacific time.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's awesome. I will 100% be there. I'm very grateful for you taking your time out of your day to come and share your insights and being brave enough to talk about it out loud. And I reckon we do this again sometime. So I want to say a big thank you. Keep safe, and we'll check in with you again soon. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, man.
All right.